Well, hey, everybody, getting ready to record Mike in the Midwest for this week. Let's go. What episode number? 186. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 186 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find me on the socials at Be Our Guest Mike. And we're recording this show on Tuesday morning, February 13th, 2024, the day before Valentine's Day, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But I hope today's show finds you well and that you're doing great. And of course, thank you so much for being a patron of the big show, the Be Our Guest podcast. It is doing well. It's doing great. We're doing well in the Apple Podcast rankings over there on Chartify. So thank you for downloading the show. Thank you for sharing the episodes whenever we release a podcast on Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and even on Thursdays. Most weeks when we have the replay of the Sunday Night Live shows. When you see those release, if you wouldn't mind just sharing the shows, that really does help. Somebody might see a show that's never listened before, see the topic, because on Mondays, maybe somebody's staying at that hotel. Maybe it's a show about French Quarter, Caribbean Beach, Riviera. They're going to stay there for the first time. They give it a listen. For some reason, they think our show's interesting. You guys think it is. I don't know. My wife tunes me out, but she married me. It's one of those things. I don't know why she loves me, but she does. It's funny. But maybe they'll join our crew and be a part of the Be Our Guest podcast family. Who knows? But share. Maybe people like us. Maybe they won't. But they can make a decision and they can see what they think. It's like a buffet, right? You go by, maybe you sample something off the buffet. Maybe you like it. Maybe you don't. But you never know unless you try. So if you could hit that share button, that's a long way to go to see if I can get people to share stuff. But hey, I would appreciate it. So thank you so much for doing that this week. Anyway, hope you're doing well, man. The weather's beautiful here in St. Louis today. You can hear I got a little pep in my step. Just when the weather's great, life's good, right? I mean, it's awesome. So tomorrow, Valentine's Day. Hope you have, if you have a significant other in your life, hope you have got everything squared away. I don't. Flowers have been ordered. I was talking with Scott about this, I think, yesterday as we recorded the shows. We'll talk about this in just a second too. But the flowers, I ordered the flowers a couple days ago. I feel I'm way ahead of the game on the flowers. I ordered those like 3 or 4 days ahead of time. So I feel so good about that. And I was telling him, like, he's like, so because he was telling me like they don't do flowers or anything like that, him and Elizabeth. And I said, I always have, because, my wife's an elementary school teacher, right? And it's like we used to work together. We'll talk about that too later in the show. But when your wife teaches in an elementary school, like it's predominantly all women. And I don't want my wife to be the only lady in the building that doesn't get flowers delivered to her desk or to her classroom on Valentine's Day. That'd be sad. And of course, I do love my wife. I mean, again, I've talked about this 100 times on the podcast. I married way out of my league. I mean, way out of my league. And she puts up with me doing a podcast all this time. And I've done it for almost 16 years. And she takes care of everything here in the house. I mean, it's amazing. So I love her. I appreciate her. You guys all know that are married to incredible women that we don't deserve. I mean, it's just, you got to show a token of your love, right? Small price to pay. So I got the flowers ordered, but I mean, I got to go get the card today. So I'm a little stressed because I always want to try to find the perfect card. And do you go sentimental? Do you go funny? I usually go funny, but sometimes you got to go sentimental every once in a while because you can't go funny all the time. So I got to do that, probably a little chocolate, nothing crazy. It's only Valentine's Day, but because again, her birthday's in March. So we got that coming up. It's like boom, 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 all that stuff. So we'll see. Got to go get a card. And of course, tonight we got a basketball game. And so we got dinner and basketball. So it's a busy night. And of course, it's a busy day here at the travel agency. So a lot going on. So I'm a little stressed, I shouldn't have waited till the last minute for the card and all that stuff and a little chocolate. Not, probably some Hershey Kisses, right? You can cop out, just get a bag of Hershey Kisses. It's like it's the easy thing to get. But what do you guys do? Just let me know. Patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. You can tell me pre-act, because of course this won't come out till after the comments won't be till after Valentine's Day. Like, what did you get? What did you do for your significant other? Do you guys do like the teddy bears or do you just do a card? Do you do flowers? Am I dumb for doing flowers? But that in our anniversary, I do like to get her flowers. I am, now I do, I'll be honest, and I'm a sucker. I am such a sucker. I do get her roses on Valentine's Day, but I don't get her roses on our anniversary. On our anniversary, I get her a bouquet of the flowers that we had at our wedding, and her favorite flower is what's called a Gerber daisy. I think it's called a Gerber daisy, but that's her favorite flower, and we had those at our wedding because we had an outdoor wedding. And she loves that flower, and it's kind of hard to get. I mean, you can get it, but it's not super common. But that's what I get her. I get her a bouquet of those every for her anniversary. And so you got to go hunting and pecking for those, but I find them. So this is the only time she gets roses. And of course it's the time where roses, God, it's extortion on Valentine's Day, but I guess it's the price you pay, you save up. And so she just, again, like I said, it's pretty, dude, I'm married out of my league. You just pay it, there's certain things. It's like Disney, right? I mean, we're all Disney fans. I mean, is the chicken at Cinderella's roll table worth what you pay? Heck no. Do you pay it? Well, I mean, it's the experience, right? I mean, it's just what we do. Do I want to stay married to Pam? Absolutely. Will I pay it for the roses one time a year? Yeah. Those roses, though, I could probably go chop some, at a farm for $2, and I'm paying a fortune for them, but it's the whole deal. Anyway, that's where I am. Let me know where you are on the social media. We'll be seeing them tomorrow, Bobby. Hopefully, the whole thing is that she's happy. And the whole thing is Pam would tell me, I don't need flowers. That's exactly what she's going to tell me tomorrow. She's going to come home from school. These are beautiful. You didn't have to do. She says this every year. Why did you get me roses? You didn't need to get me roses. But I'd feel bad if I didn't, because she says that every year. You didn't need to get these for me. Like they're crazy to buy those on Valentine's Day, but I just it's the whole thing. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but that's just me. I just have to. You have to as a guy. Anyway, I'm talking into a microphone because I'm trying to talk to myself. I think that's what Mike in the Midwest is. It's me talking with my conscience and you guys listening in. And I don't know why you like to listen to the show, or even if you do, but you do. So thank you for being here. And the Mike in my head podcast here. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great week so far. We had the Super Bowl on Sunday night. Hopefully, maybe you were a Chiefs fan. I really didn't have a dog in the race. You might think Mike in the Midwest, woo, he's happy because the Chiefs won. They're a Missouri team. Mike's in Missouri. I'm not a big Chiefs fan. I'm not even really a big NFL fan. I'm a Mizzou fan. And I was happy for Nick Bolton, the leading tackler in the game. He's a Mizzou guy. Blaine Gabbert is the backup quarterback for the Chiefs. He got another Super Bowl ring. Andy Reid is actually a former Mizzou coach. So that was nice to have. There's a couple other Mizzou guys on the Chiefs. So I was glad for the Mizzou guys to get another ring. But I'm not a huge Chiefs guy. Because when the Rams left, they really tried to make St. Louis like a Chiefs town. I'm not against the Chiefs, but I'm just sour on the NFL because they took our team away. And so I'm a college football guy. But I mean, I watched the Super Bowl and it was fun. We went over to Pam's sister's house and watched it with her and her husband and my nephew, and we had a good time. We ate a lot of good food, some wings and buffalo chicken dip. Man, the buffalo chicken dip, I ate my weight in that. All the good, stuff, taco dip, had some brownies. Oh, so good. So, and you watch the commercials. Of course, I think the best commercial, Scott and I talk about it on the shows this week, the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Tom Brady and all the actors, Ben Affleck, I guess that was. So that was kind of fun. But let me know what your favorite commercial was again, because the feedback is what makes the show. So patreon.com/BRGS podcast. What was your favorite commercial? And did your team win? And of course, again, going to overtime, I like because it made the football season last a little bit longer. But I did like Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. I was kind of pulling for those guys, but it is what it is. I didn't care who won. It was fine. So that's that. Super Bowl Sunday was fun. Now we're in kind of a lull, which I'm going to talk about on next week's show because I've kind of turned the corner to my next thing that I'm obsessing over, which I'm saving for next week. But Yeah, this week's shows though, let's move on to that. So this week, of course, tomorrow being Valentine's Day, the tradition on the Be Our Guest podcast is this romantic, right? And we didn't get a whole lot of submissions this year. We only had a couple, and thank God, because at the last minute, well, Pam is still in Walt Disney. She's I don't know if she's moved to Florida or what, but she could not make the shows this week. She let us know Monday morning early. We record on Mondays. And so it's just going to be Ricky and Scott and I. So we're cool, right? We're going to do that. Well, Ricky at lunchtime on Monday texts in a panic that Lucy, her little daughter, almost one, the daycare calls, and Lucy is running a fever. And so Ricky has to run to the daycare, pick up little Lucy, and take her home because she's sick. And she sent us a picture of her looking all cute. She had the rosy cheeks and stuff, obviously running a fever. And so all of a sudden, we are down to Mike and Scott at the time where we have to record Is This Romantic? And I'm like, oh, dude, this is not good. But we did the best we could. So you're going to get a Mike and Scott episode of Is This Romantic? So, and we didn't have a lot of submissions. So we get like 3 or 4 situations where we give romantic advice on Is This Romantic with Mike and Scott. So take it as it is. It's probably the most wild version we've ever had in the history of the show. Then for the last 15 minutes of the show, I came up with I had a hair when I was on the treadmill of how we could fill the rest of the show for 15 minutes. That I thought, well, Scott and I go so many trips together. We cruise together. We've been, different. He's come to St. Louis. We've traveled all these places, all these races. We've been to Disneyland together multiple times. We've been to Walt Disney World tons of times together. We've had so many meals together. So I said, we're going to each pull up a menu from Walt Disney World, from a restaurant, a table service restaurant at Walt Disney World. And we're going to try to guess what the other one would order. So we're going to order for each other what each other would like. So what we ended up, the 2 restaurants we picked were Trattoria Al Forno over on the boardwalk and T-Rex Cafe at Disney Springs. And so we go through the menus and we order for each other, thinking we picked the ultimate meal for each of us. Like we were like on a bromance date or something. It was the dumbest idea. Hopefully you'll enjoy it on tomorrow's show. Man, sorry, we were struggling. It's not the best Valentine's show, but it's what happens when the ladies didn't show up on Valentine's Day. So there you go. And then we did listener questions on Friday. So those are your shows you're going to get this week. All right. So that's where we stand with the Be Our Guest podcast. Let's hit the feedback from last week. We talked about that show, that song by Larry Fleet that talks about just you got to enjoy, the little things in life, the little blessings that are all around us that maybe the things that we take for granted, right? The things that, we have a roof over our heads. We have a good job that we're going home from every day. We have a paycheck. We have kids that love us. We have a significant other. We have somebody to buy roses for tomorrow. You can't look past the things that we probably all take for granted. And I do that all the time. So that song came on the radio when I talked about that. I read some of the lyrics. And we start off with Dennis, my good friend, down in Dallas. And he says, I understand the comments you were making about trying to choose music at the beginning of the episode. I have heard that having too many options breeds dissatisfaction because it makes it hard to make a decision. Spotify recently introduced an AI DJ. I'm loving it because it's tailored to each listener's music habits. And once I turn it on, I don't have to make any choices, but I know I'm generally going to get something I want to listen to. Okay, that's what I was talking about. It's like when you have 40 million songs, I get paralyzed. But I think I brought this up, did I? Because the algorithm on Apple Music now with that favorites mix is so good. Like every Tuesday it gets updated. And now I look forward to it because the songs are so good in it. Like it's in my brain. Like because I listened to it this morning when I was walking Riley again, and I'm like, oh man, like it's scary good. Like because it's not songs that I listen to. It's like related songs. But I'm like, oh my god, I haven't heard that song in 15 years, and I love this song. But how does it know I love this song? It's scary good. It's computers are like whack right now because they're between our ears, man. AI is nuts. Okay, back to Dennis. I also really like this topic this week. I try not to take for granted every time I get to make a meal for my entire family, as it happens less and less, even if it means I have to make an additional meal for the picky eater in the house. Also, I'm trying to remember that I get to take my two senior dogs for a walk at 5:30 in the morning when I really want to hit that snooze button and go back to sleep. Finally, it isn't really a get to item, but I do try and not take my health for granted. It seems like it just gets a little easier to strain a muscle, twist an ankle, or come down with some other injury each passing year. You know what, Dennis? That's a great point because I think, especially, and again, I'm talking to, and I'm not saying we're getting older, but I mean, because I still feel like I'm in my 20s and 30s for the most part mentally, right? But I know in reality, like I hit the big 5-0 this year, right? And I've been very lucky with my health, and God, I hate to say that and knock on wood so much, but I've seen you see so many celebrities, right? We saw Carl Weathers pass on, recently. And I mean, he's Apollo Creed. And you see, so many of us have had friends that haven't made it to this age, or they've made it to this age, but they are not able to run or, God forbid, run a full marathon or something like that. And I think a lot of us take for granted that, we talk about, oh, this and that, but I mean, how many of us take for granted that we can still get out there and go for runs? We complain about things, but I mean, my gosh, to be able to get out there and run a marathon, that's a blessing to be able to still have that ability when, a lot of people don't, they would love to be able to do that and you can't. Or just to be able to get around still, because a lot of folks don't have that ability. So yeah, take every day. And like you said with your dog, dogs' lives. And I'm not trying to make you sad about this because I try to think about this with Riley. Their lives live at an accelerated pace. It's like 7 times. Like one day in a dog's life is like times 7. I try to remember that with Riley, right? I want to enjoy every day with Riley because, she's not going to be here forever. I love that dog. And I didn't even mean to love that dog. Like it's Paige's dog. But man, I've fallen in love with that dog so hard because it's just her and I during the day. The girls are at school, Paige is up in Chicago, and she's a sweetheart. So it's not a get to when I got to take her out to go for a walk. It's her and I, like she's my bud. And so I do enjoy every day. That's a good point. I get to take her for a walk. I get to have her as a buddy. That's a good point, Dennis. I appreciate that. Trisha heading up to Wisconsin says, I have to take the dog out. She loves my husband and tolerates me. So that's my have to for the week. I'm in the thick of young kid parenting, and it's hard at times to be grateful for sitting through endless swim practices and giving up free time every weekend. But I do try to see the bright side. I get to sit. That's the miracle some days. I get to spend uninterrupted time with my husband when we attend meets, and I get to see the smile on my daughter's face knowing her parents are there for support. Trisha's exactly right. When you would have told me this when Paige was playing on 3 different teams and we were running everywhere, I would have said it was a have to. Now that now that she's gone and Mallory, like Mallory's driving now. So we don't take her anywhere anymore. And so I'm at the end of it. And so now it's like it's sad. Like when you get to the end of it, it becomes like, oh my gosh, like it is such a finite amount of Friday Night Light football games. Like I could count them. There's only going to be, because she's only got 2 more years. So there's only going to be probably 12, maybe 15 home football games in the next 2 years that she'll cheer. That's it. 15 total, probably 7 or 8 each year. That's it, and then basketball. I mean, she's probably only going to cheer maybe 30, 40 more games total with basketball and football. So there is an end, and the finish line is coming, but you don't see that when they're 8 and they're playing on multiple teams and they have all these meets and they have all this coming up. And it's just like an endless grind at that age. And I remember those days. So I remember the have to, but then when you get towards the end and you've already had one that's moved out, gone on to the big city and you never see anymore and you miss and it hurts, you miss them so bad. Yeah. Your perspectives totally change. So I get it, Trisha, because if you'd asked me this a long time ago, it was a have to, and then it turns into a get to real quick. Trisha knows, and she's next out in Indiana. She says, "This topic was so perfect for me right now. I think I've told you that my son and husband outgrew Disney and take their own trips now. Well, this summer it's Canada. My girls and I are going to Disney as usual, and because of my son's soccer schedule, it ended up that we're going to be gone different weeks. It started as a joke that I would go with them too, but became a reality. And we're also taking my son's girlfriend as a high school graduation gift to them. So I'll be going from one trip to another, and this will put me on vacation for over 2 weeks. I've already told my daughters that when I start to miss the comforts of home at the end of our Disney week, I just need to remind myself how lucky I am to have these opportunities to travel with the ones I love the most, feeling truly blessed that this is my life." That's it. I mean, that's it. I mean, you just want to be with those that you love all the time, no matter what. And it is that. I mean, it I think it's about recognition too, right? You know what you like. And you also have to understand that not everybody's going to always be so passionate about the things you're passionate about, and that's okay. And let them be passionate about their passions. Do I wish that Paige, my oldest daughter that's up in Chicago, was still at Mizzou? Because she had a job at Mizzou with the women's basketball team at Mizzou. 100% wish that she was there, because she was 2 hours down, less than 2 hours down the road at an SEC school. And you guys know how I love Mizzou. Look at the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios on the video feed. As you look, 3 of the walls in this studio are Mizzou gold. That's why the walls are gold in this studio, because Mizzou. You always see me. I have Mizzou stuff on all the time. That's my school. Did I want her to leave there? Absolutely not. But she was chasing a dream. Do I want her to chase her dream? Absolutely. I'm so glad that she's chasing a dream up in the big city in Chicago. I couldn't be more proud of her. So it's a give and take, and that's how life is. Trish, I get that. And that's your girls and your family is amazing out there in Indiana. I love that. Okay. Today's topic, because Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and I just thought I'd do something fun. I don't know if your kids did this or if you did this back in school, but I thought I'd talk about a couple things that we did when I was a teacher, and maybe you did it as a student because I'm old. So around Valentine's Day, we used to do a couple of things at Wedgwood Elementary School, where I was a teacher back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Remember that Pam taught next door to me. I taught sixth grade and she taught sixth grade. I was in room 135. She was in room 137. We were next door neighbors. And we were also the student council sponsors. We co-sponsored student council together. She was the logistical person on student council. I was always the mouthpiece. So we'd have all these assemblies for the whole school. She always called me Mr. Microphone. I would get up and tell the whole school like what was going on. We'd have talent contests. We'd have all this stuff. And I was always the person I was the idea man. I was the microphone guy. And she would always like do the logistics, like the writing of the letters, the paperwork, the, organization. And we are a great team. We were. So anyway, of course, with student council, one of our goals with our kids that were on student council were, public service, right? Volunteerism. So let me take a step back. So Pam, when she was in elementary school, she did a thing called Penny for Your Heart. Now, you might have done this when you were in elementary. I didn't do this. I think it was more for girls, because I remember in our middle school, because we both went to the same district, Pam and I, but she went to a different middle school in the same district. And we had a Penny for Your Heart queen, both of our middle schools. And she was one of the queen candidates at her school. And you just raised money for the American Heart Association. And what you did was, and she told me that she did this, she stood for a month before Valentine's Day out in front of the grocery store with like a tin. This is how old this is, man. You would not do this anymore. She would stand out in front of the grocery store with like a tin can and collect change as people came and went out of the grocery store on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And you would collect coins and money, and whoever collected the most money for the American Heart Association, you became your school's Penny for Your Heart queen. And and all the money was donated to the American Heart Association. And then there was like, and then we had like a middle school dance the day before. Maybe it was on Valentine's Day. I just remember there was always a dance. It was a big deal. Anyway, so that was like what she did in elementary school. So when we were teachers, we wanted to raise money for the American Heart Association with our student council. We didn't do that. Now, we did a couple of other things. So in conjunction with our PE teachers, now I bet your kids did this. This is a national program that was very popular. And I like this because I think I've talked about this on the show. Before I switched over to elementary education in college, I was a PE major. I wanted to be a gym teacher. Imagine that. Look how I dress. And I love sports. But then one day I decided, I don't know if I want to do that for 30 years. Like just somebody said, do you want to just roll out a ball every day for 30 years? And I was like, maybe. Because like somebody told me like, you're super smart. Like you got straight A's through school. Like you were gifted. Like, don't you want to teach like academic stuff? And I was like, kind of. So I switched and they're like, it'd be a lot easier to get a job. Like guys in elementary, like you just get a job. Like you just name your school. I was like, well, that sounds good. So anyway, I switched over to elementary education. Just got, I wanted to get a job easier. I mean, I'm so dumb. Anyway, so I did. And I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I switched over to elementary. So anyway, oh yeah, because we're talking about the first thing we did. We joined up with the PE teachers and we did jump rope for heart. And so I bet your kids did this, right? So in PE class, the kids would, leading up like a couple weeks before, the kids would take this form home. They would ask everybody to basically sponsor them for how many jumps they'll get within the 30 minutes during the PE class. And the kids would just jump. And then actually at our school, it turned into hoops for heart, where the kids would shoot free throws for the time. And like, you pledge like, okay, I'll give you a dime for every free throw you make in a half hour. So something like that. Or you could just do a flat fee. Most people just like, I'll give you $5. Anyway, it was all for the American Heart Association. So we did jump rope for heart and we did hoops for heart. So that was one of the things we did around Valentine's Day in conjunction with our awesome PE teachers. Shout out Mr. Callahan, who's still out there coaching. Also, but the big thing that we did, now this was a huge undertaking. I mean, and they still do this all over the country, but I still think we were one of the first to do this because nobody else in our district was doing this. But we did this in middle school, like when we were in middle school, but we did this, it went away. And we both brought this up and we said, we need to bring this back. And I swear, I'm not kidding. This was not happening when we were doing this. We brought this back in our area. I'm sure it was happening other places, but we brought this back and it became popular. And I mean, we were printing money because we used it for other things later. So we brought back the heartogram. Okay. And if you don't know what a heartogram is, this is a good thing and a bad thing. All it was basically was we made little cards. All we did was we just made like little greeting cards and we just took colored paper from our stock. Now back then, but like nowadays in a teacher's lounge, it's like nearly impossible to use the copy machine. Like they're on lockdown. It's hard to get to any office supplies. Everything is on lockdown. Back in the day, we had free reign of anything. Like paper was plentiful, copy, ink, everything was plentiful. We could do whatever we wanted. Our school district didn't keep track of anything. So we just went down in the supply closet. There was copy paper of all different shades, colors, whatever. So we got red copy paper. We made it was almost like print shop back in the day on the Commodore 64. So we made like a template of a card that said to from, had like little hearts around it, like a little slogan. We made a card. We ran off like 500 copies of this card. And so our student council kids would wait up in the lobby in the mornings and sell these heartograms. And so the deal was, and we sold them for like 50 cents or $1. I can't remember. They were cheap. But what happened was on Valentine's Day, and so like the kid that bought them would say, who they wanted to send it to and what class they were in, and that, they could fill it out. And they would get delivered on Valentine's morning to that class with like like Smarties or something, some piece of candy or Hershey Kiss or something. So they would get a piece of candy and the card. And it was a whole thing, man. We made so much money on these things. We didn't make money. We gave it all to the Heart Association because, I mean, basically, we were printing them for free. We just bought the candy and we donated that. But they were super popular. So these things, and then we did them every year. I mean, and they got bigger and bigger. Of course, like because our school was K6, the sixth graders were all over it because, everybody had a crush on everybody, fifth graders too. But I mean, everybody was sending them to everybody. And of course, I had to send one to Pam because she was my heartogram. She was my boo. So I sent them to her. And then, of course, the kids saw that and they were, ooh, Mr. Roman, Miss Bullington, boo. So it was a whole thing. But it was a cool thing. I mean, everybody got a kick out of it. And our student council got to go out and sort them and deliver them and put them in bags and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was a great fundraiser because it's basically so cheap to raise money. And so we saw that it was such a success that we use this all the time in the school. So at Halloween, we made boograms. So we just had they were on orange paper with like a mummy. And I forgot what we put a piece of candy on there, some kind of Halloween themed candy. We sold boograms and we gave that money. I forgot, some like animal shelter or something. But I mean, we were the king of the grams. We did them like 3 or 4 times a year and the kids loved them. And our principal was like, man, this is like printing money for like charities. But it was one of those fun things that it brought the school together because we sold them only for like 2 or 3 days. Like it was a limited time run. But when they brought them in, it was really cool because kids got them. And here was the other thing. I always tried to, and I said this at a staff meeting. The only downside to the heartogram, right, is that it was a popularity contest. Like the popular kids would get a lot, and there were kids that sometimes wouldn't get any. So I was always trying to be aware of the kids in my class who were the non-popular kids. I bought heartograms. I made sure everybody in my class got a heartogram, and I would throw in, they're $1. So I made sure at least everybody in my class got a heartogram from Mr. Rallman. And that way, at least I got the piece of candy, and I would put like a little positive note in there. Shout out, you're awesome at geography. Thanks for being in my class. You're out of this world. And I try to put some witty saying in there or something. So that was the only downside. And so at the staff meeting prior to this, I would say, look, this is a good thing. We're raising money for the Heart Association. It's fun. There's going to be some kids that get a lot. That's how the world works. Be aware. It's not such a big deal in the younger grades, but it is a big deal in like 6th, 5th, 4th grade. If you could pay attention, and hopefully you do. Some teachers are doofuses and don't. It's the world. But you know what? Pay attention. Like if a kid's not going to get one, buy one for that kid and make this is an opportunity. You're in education to help kids, to help the world. Buy that kid it's an opportunity to take a bad situation and make it a good situation. That's why you're a teacher. Buy them a heartogram, say something nice, and you're going to make that kid's day. Like that kid might keep that thing for 20 years. You never know. Like it's the opportunity to be a bad situation. It's going to be an awesome situation. So that's the only bad thing about it where you can turn it around. So heartograms. So that was a funny story. I just thought I'd throw that in here the day before Valentine's Day. But did you guys do anything like that at your school? Did your kids do that? Heartograms, boograms. I think we even did them like around, I can't remember. We did them one other holiday. I can't remember what we did. But anyway, let me know in the feedback, patreon.com/BRS podcast. And what are you doing for Valentine's Day? Hopefully you're going to get a good meal at least. Maybe go to Dairy Queen, get a sundae, banana split. I mean, ice cream's always good. All right. I hope you have a great Valentine's Day. I hope you get a lot. Even if you're by yourself, if you don't have a significant other, hey, love your, just take care of yourself. Go have a treat that you love. Have your favorite meal. You know what? You don't need anybody else. Just enjoy a good book or, take yourself out. That's all you need. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. So anyway, we'll get back together again next Tuesday. Court will be back in session. I love you guys. Thanks for your support. You guys let me do what I love, and I love you for that. So until we get back together, I can't wait to hear from you. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, and happy Valentine's Day.